Okay, hello both of you. Hi Suzanne, hi Lisa.
Hello.
Here we are, back for another Eavesdrops conversation. My name is Ruth Coates and I'm a psychotherapist based in East Lothian.
Hello, I'm Lisa and I'm a coach at Go Train East Rocks and also have Super Being.
Hi, I'm Suzanne and I am a remedial therapist and my business is Body Needs and I am also a member down at East Rocks.
Excellent, and today we have decided to talk about mojo, or where's your mojo, in terms of training. And where people are at right now, I guess people be in different places. They might be feeling right on it in terms of energy and commitment to training just now, feeling good about themselves, or maybe a bit more of what we might have all heard recently, that mojo is maybe slipping, isn't quite what it was a few weeks ago, or maybe at the start of this period in our lives. Some of the reasons why that might be. What do you do when you don't want to train, maybe? And I'm speaking personally this week. I've found myself in that place of not having much motivation, not really feeling like it this week, recognising that's a bit of a cycle for me. And looking forward to chatting to you two and getting some insight about why that might be. But I'm certain it's linked to, for me, just to kick us off, with maybe feeling overworked or overcommitted to my work and feeling like there's not much time for anything else. I've got to be committed to this bit. But also, just maybe feeling like if I start now, I won't be as good as I was when I stopped last week, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
How about you guys? What does that feel like for you just now?
Suzanne?
I can definitely recognise some of the things you're saying there, Ruth, around the work situation and feeling overcommitted there, or having a lot of commitments. And I feel that in a physical sense, in looking at the diary, but I also feel it in a very mental sense. It feels like it takes up a lot of my space in there, my thought processes, and then I can almost feel the anxiety building a little bit. And sometimes I have a response to that where I then want to go out and absolutely hammer some exercise. But then there's other times that I want to then go, oh, is that a cupboard? I'm just going to open that and I'm going to go in it and hide. And then if someone could just knock when all of this is over, I'll come back out. Thanks very much. And I guess in the past couple of weeks especially, I have been yearning for that cupboard a little bit more than reaching out and doing some heavy training. So kind of thinking about why that's happening a bit more for me. Sort of a bit of self-reflection going on. And just trying to recognise it and work out maybe why it's happening first, and being okay with not always wanting to train. That's okay.
Yeah. I think,
what about you, Lisa?
I guess today, I'll just use today as an example. Today, I've been out for a long walk, so about 10k. I went for a nice walk with someone, a friend, and then, which was really gorgeous, beautiful, loved it. Came back, and I have been feeling a little bit tired this week, and that's fine, and that's just where I'm at. And then the boys went up to play with their friends up the road, and so Neil said, well, shall we go for a cycle? And I hadn't moved yesterday, and I really felt it in my bones that I wanted to move, but I was also reading a book, and I also just needed to get something to eat. And I had this really weird thing. So get this, I wanted time for me. So I thought, sitting on this chair, whatever chair, reading this beautiful book and having my cup of tea and a couple of crackers and cheese is exactly what I had. And I thought, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I like. This is this is what I want. So Neil had gone off to do whatever and get bikes ready and I don't know, whatever else. And I felt myself kind of dozing off. But what I find peculiar is, okay, now I knew there was a want, a definite want in me that wanted to move. And here I was having this debate with myself that, well, I just need me time, but I wasn't viewing the getting out and having the beautiful outdoors and going away over to the estuary and being out in nature as a treat, as something that would really benefit me. I thought, and this is not wholly conscious, this is kind of retrospectively, I thought that sitting on the chair, not moving, reading my book and having the cup of tea was a better option. No, and I'm not saying that it wasn't a better option, but I was also ignoring the fact that I really wanted to move too. So sitting on the chair reading the book wasn't going to fulfill that need, that want. And so so Neil said, "Are you coming?" And I said, "I am." It's the sentiment is in my big toe just now. It's slowly working itself up my body, and I'll be there. Get the backside. So I was honestly, it was like dragging me out of mud.
So sometimes it's like, sorry, Lisa, but just like thinking. So sometimes it can feel really effortless to move.
Yeah.
So that decision doesn't really need thinking about. Yeah, I'm going to train, or I'm looking forward to it. And basically running down to the box. And sometimes you are really dragging your feet, sitting on the chair, questioning whether actually this is me time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it really does feel like me time, doesn't it? This is exactly what you need.
Yes.
You can be in the flow of that.
Yes.
And others, it's like, oh.
Yeah, that I mean, and I know that those 9:30 classes that I participate in, I cannot wait. I look forward to it, and I can't wait to get it on. You know, and it's exciting, and that's wonderful too. But yeah, it was. I just thought, and this is just now, just kind of thinking that it's interesting how our mind and our thoughts about stuff, just how it comes into play. So just that need, that there was a very primal basic need in me that needed to move. I needed to, I knew it. But there was this kind of other me going, nah, sit on a seat, read the book, have the cup of tea, maybe doze off. Boys aren't here, this is bliss, you know? But I went out for the bike ride and I had a bliss time out there too, and it was wonderful. And I'm, and as always, it's bottling that. Sometimes it's just bottling, if you can, the post effect and taking a wee sniff of it before you go. Because all of us know in this conversation that generally, when we are not feeling it or it's in our big toe, generally once we've done it, we're really grateful for having done it, for being able to do it and having done it. And generally the other side of that, there's a good vibe.
Is there not a quote around that of the only session or the only exercise session that you regret is the one that you didn't do?
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
But it's something like that. But I thought that kind of, when you started to say, if you could only bottle up that feeling that you get after it, I think that's what made me think of that. And yeah, I think it is true. Like, I usually feel a hell of a lot better once I've done it. And yesterday I was struggling to motivate myself. And it was just when at the time that I finished with work and I hadn't eaten for a long time, and I was kind of, we should just probably start to make dinner. And you've not been out yet. You've not been out the house. And another part of me is going, yeah, but it's not looking that great. There's a wee bit of wind. That's not great for cycling. You have to change your clothes. Like, oh, come on. Like, what are you doing this for? You've not eaten in hours. And I'm like, you're not going to fade away. It'll be fine. So I forced myself to go out. And then I got annoyed with myself on the route. Because it was a little bit windy, I was kind of head down and just pedaling, especially because I'd come out of a junction and there was a man already on the road and I couldn't let him catch me and overtake me for I don't know what reason. I just couldn't. So I ended up head down and I'm rattling along. And then I quickly took the turn. And then as I was on that road, I thought, where's the turn to the right? And I realised I'd cut on the turning too early and ended up taking a longer loop. So I added on extra Ks, and then I also added on a big, massive hill. So I was just like raging with myself all the way around. And then I got home and I looked at the time that it had taken me. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. Like, oh, well done you. And then that feeling, that bottled feeling of like, this is amazing. And I just forgot all about, you know, being in the huff with myself, and also overtook another man on a hill. You know, we're starting to talk about man motivation here. Yeah, so.
Do you wear a t-shirt with this sign on the back of it?
No, but I should.
Get it in production, Lisa. I'm thinking of what happens for me, and maybe like for both of you as well, I've touched on it, is that what we tell ourselves, that critical voice, or the different parts of us that start piping up when we have that debate about whether to go and get your trainers on. And I can get into quite a critical pit with myself. And actually, I think it really feeds itself, and it, you know, after the next day it can be like about it's turned into resentment for anyone who's actually training, or I can be really kicking myself about not. But I'm just wondering, you know, if I'm getting better at catching it, but if I do catch it and just go, it's all right, you don't have to train today, I'm probably more likely to train the next day if I'm not hard on myself for not having done it. And I know that from the past, it's just not maybe happened this week, that just catching that negative voice, that being hard on yourself and not feeling like it. And if I can do that and be more gentle, then I'm more likely to pick up the kettlebell the next day.
But you're changing the story.
Yeah,
before
exactly.
the story writes itself, you're taking control of
Exactly.
it and turning it.
Yeah. And also just being a bit easier on myself for those days when genuinely, you know, you were talking about bottling that feeling, and that quote that you said, Suzanne, about the only one you regret is the session you didn't do. Sometimes sometimes I pat myself on the back for not doing the session, I have to say, because it was right for me not to do it.
Like there's always a caveat, isn't there? And I think if you're used to and you're quite good at pushing yourself through, sometimes like how Lisa and I both forced ourselves to go on that bike ride, I think the more that you do that, the more that you realise when you genuinely do just go, no, I do need to stop here, and I do need to like sit on the sofa and read the book, or I do need to dedicate my time to the work, or I do just need to sit and do nothing, whatever it is. I think you just get to know yourself a wee bit better and know where your body's at and where your mind's at.
I think it is about self-awareness and body awareness, and those two coming together. Yeah.
And it's a really good thing, because listening in, so today it wasn't like I was ignoring something. It wasn't that everything in me was saying, listen, Lisa, I think the best thing for you to do today is to sit in this chair and read your book, because there was an instinctive desire to go and move. I just couldn't get my fat ass off that seat. And I was trying to just get up because I wanted to. There was more want than not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. But I am absolutely 100% cool in the blinking gang when it comes to, you know, I'm not doing that today. I have stopped, maybe a while ago, yes, but I have stopped beating myself up about not having, you know, sweated in a pitiful mess in the corner. I honestly enjoy the training when I am there. I enjoy not training when I'm not there. You know, with my sore neck and everything, I haven't trained properly for 4 weeks. And you know what? I'm actually okay about it. I miss it, but I'm okay about it. Mentally, I'm all right. Mentally, I've turned it around, you see, because I think what sometimes happens when we don't train is that we get stuck in the thought, which could be, oh, you're lazy.
Yeah, that self-chat again, yeah.
That whole thing. Oh, you're lazy, you're not doing anything. Well, why are you not doing anything? Well, that's rubbish because everybody else is doing stuff and you're not doing stuff. And I think what happens with some of us sometimes is that, yeah, I was a bit sore about this whole neck and shoulder thing. And I you know, initially I was just like, really? And then I thought, okay, well, what can I do? So it's turning it around to say, okay, well, what would be possible anyway, that I would maybe, you know, be okay with. And it was running.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't run a lot. I don't love it. But what I do love, and what I did love about that lovely weather and running in it, was that I got to swim in the sea. Because I got myself hot enough that I needed cooling down. Mm-hmm. And I would go in and have this beautiful little swim in the sea and lie in the ocean, you know, for 30 seconds, looking up at the sky and, oh, loving life, and then run home. And my day was made. And so those were compensations, but it was also about kind of turning the thought pattern around, as you say, you know, is that changing the story? It's rewriting your own story that serves you, that benefits you. And yeah, and I think it's hard to do sometimes when we place a lot of emphasis on the per me, or the chat, listening to that horrible ego voice going, when actually, you know, it's bull. It's nonsense.
I see a lot of that in my work. And it's interesting that I see that in other people, and I coach people through that process and get them to challenge their own thought process. Not so good at doing it to myself, but you know, there's a difference between, in my head, training and moving your body. Sometimes there's crossover.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that I see that are injured become very focused on the thing that they cannot do. So like similar to how you're explaining, Lisa, you're just changing the story and thinking about what you can do. And for a lot of people, what they cannot do is their training. But what they can do is they can be more mobile and they can move around. And our body needs movement, and training is a form of movement. And there's other forms of movement as well.
Yes.
And I think, in my experience, when I'm working with people and they have a lot of anxiety around their injury, and ironically, an injury can also make you not want to train. So I see people that have an injury and really want to train, and I have other people that have an injury and then they don't want to do any training. Whereas I'm going, well, it's an upper body injury. I could have you doing squats. You know, you could run. There's lots of things. So it does really sort of shift the attitude completely. So getting people into the headspace where they recognise that an aspect of training is maybe missing for them, but there's still the potential to move their body. And then you start looking at, well, what is it that they are missing about the training aspect? So somebody that I'm working with just now is missing out on running, and they said to me, I get to go into the countryside. I don't get to do that now. And then I'm, well, you could walk, you could cycle, you could do a few different things, but because it's that, and then it's hard to sometimes take that step back, and instead of us, it's like what's the saying, the throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I can't do that, so I'm not doing anything. But I think that's more tied into what someone's motivation is for training. So if you start pulling back down into that and understanding what your motivation is, then you can find different ways out of your injury. But you may also find that your motivation has changed from what it was however many years ago, however many months ago, or however many weeks ago. And that's, for me, is looking at what internally you want and why we do what we do, versus externally what others maybe think of us, or what we think others think of us. And
I just have to, I'm sorry about this, I just have to let my family in. I've locked them out. Carry on.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I also think that, Suzanne, is that your body won't change your mind.
Huh.
It won't.
No.
Your body doesn't change your mind. Your mind changes your attitude. So
Yeah.
it's this kind of thing where, you know, and I think that's what you've touched on, is this idea that, you know, that your body can change your mind. And it can't. It won't, and it will never happen. This is what's in control. So it's about using your mind to change your attitude and being okay with that. And as you say, just trying to understand yourself and understand where that's coming from, whether it is I don't want to train because I'm injured, or you know, that kind of, and I'm not saying that everybody who's injured is stubborn or it's an excuse or it's a barrier to training. I'm just saying that it can be in life. We can put up all sorts of stuff as reasons to not doing things. And that's just another example of thinking, well, my body's broken, so, you know, can't.
But it's change, and we don't like change, do we? It's a change to the routine. It's a change to the situation, and we like to resist. That's is it not one of the first steps to change? Like we put up a lot of resistance, and then there's like kind of a wee bit of denial, and then we start to accept that change is happening. And I guess a sort of injury is a change, but so is like a change in life circumstances. So we started off by saying the pressures of work at the minute, feeling that. I'm sure there's lots of people feeling the pressures of homeschooling. So that's maybe going to then cause a shift and a change and just disrupt your usual thinking and attitude around what your training is for, like what we spoke about last week about why we train. And that just kind of, I think, just rustles up the leaves a little bit. And then we're left with a feeling of maybe uncertainty. And for me, sometimes the reaction to that is to go, oh, like, go over, leave me be.
I think it's a tricky thing to look at, like, just like listening to you both and what we're all saying is, it's not that easy, is it, to be curious about why we train or why we're not. Like, you know, it's, I was thinking about that self-talk that we were chatting about, and it's not something that coming from therapeutic experience that I would ever dismiss. It's really important to listen to what's going on, to what you're saying, in order to take action to change it. So if your self-chat is, well, you're never going to lose the weight if you don't get down to training, you know, and all of that, then is your motivation to train purely aesthetic, purely about how you look? Is your, you know, if the chat is, well, she's going to beat you on the PB then, isn't she? Or she's going to be faster than you, then what's your motivation? I think it's really important to just compassionately and curiously listen to yourself, even the negative stuff, because I think it's really revealing about your motivation to train.
And I love that. And I love how you can then say, is that true? Is that true thing? Is that true? And then I love how you can explore, well, no, that's not true. Okay. And then take it in a different, like a little tree. And I can't remember, I have a lovely book. Now, I can't remember the author, but if I do remember her, she goes through a process of that. Whenever you have doubt, whenever you have those thoughts, those gremlins that kind of come in and question your being, you can go through a process and ask yourself, I think it might be Marianne Wilson, but I'm not 100% sure, is it true? And it's a wonderful exercise. It is the most amazing exercise to take yourself through. And if it is yes, then you've got another little question to ask yourself. If it's no, you've got another little question to ask yourself. It's like that thing, that little tree. And that's a wonderful thing too. It's a lovely exploration of hopefully taking you back to the grassroots level of where you're going, your why. Why do I do this? And I think for all of us, And the thing that matters is it doesn't matter why. It's yours. It doesn't matter what your reasoning is. But what is important is that as human beings, we are all meant to move. So regardless of whether you are out in a gym, blasting your head off and reaching for that PB, whether you're just there because you enjoy the company, whether you're just there because you love being outside, whether you're just there because you enjoy the functionality, the I suppose the variance of what you get when you go there, and I'm talking about my place of work, which is East Rocks. I'm just saying that it doesn't matter why you're there. To lose weight, to gain muscle, to keep your mental health alive and well and sustained. That's yours to own. And whatever your reason for being there, it's okay. It is okay. And I would like to think as coaches that, we can hopefully see you and understand why each and everybody is there and look after that. And I just think that's really important. I just think that it's nobody else's business as well, why you're there and why you do what you do. But yeah, I think personally, it's important to understand you. That's the only person that needs to know.
Yeah, I think absolutely. From like being in your classes, like one of the things that I take away from you being my coach, Lisa, is that whenever I am veering off on those sort of doubts and questions, is you always tell me, like, you do you. You on your journey.
Yes.
They're doing their thing. And that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I like what you're saying in that the why, knowing what your why is important, but what the why is only really important to you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things on social media, there's been lots of shifts over the years, and there's lots of things of, you only compete with yourself, and at the minute it seems to be that's the kind of message of the best kind of competition is competing with yourself. But that's almost like downplaying those people who like to be competitive with others, or people who just don't like to be competitive full stop. And I like how you're saying that all of those reasons, they all count. They do. The only thing that I would add into it that I would like is that people have an intrinsic motivator and an extrinsic, so they have a balance between the two. So that some of the extrinsic stuff, I think it's fair to say, especially with women, maybe not, maybe it's men as well, I don't know, but is around appearance and getting leaner, getting skinnier, whatever way we want to do it. And that can be, you don't always have full control over that. That is impacted by lots of different things. You can get to a point that it's just how your body is shaped, that it's not going to change that much. And despite what some of the celebrities in America do with getting their ribs removed and the like, I do not recommend. So there's some things that you cannot shift and change. So I think if you just got that purely extrinsic motivation, then you're in a wee bit of trouble because you can't fully control some of that. So like I say, I would like there to be a bit of balance between the two. So it might be that, yeah, that keeps my body in great physical shape. It looks really good. There should be nothing wrong with being able to say that, and we shouldn't really be judged for it. But also, it would be quite nice to have something on the other side that's and then it makes me feel like, or whatever.
Yeah, the balance. Yeah.
Insert appropriate comment there.
So just to kind of bring us to the kind of final section of our chat then, what will help us, what helps get back on track then? What kind of things, maybe as a summary of what we've been talking about, would help us get back on track in terms of training?
What's
that?
I was going to say a good warm-up is actually wonderful to connect your mind and body.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so true. As soon as you start getting into that flow, it's like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that lovely connection between the physicality and the spirituality or the emotional, whatever you want to call it. And it's just that I can, I am, I will.
Yeah.
It's beautifully positive, I think. I think that for me anyway, that's a lovely connection as a thing. Anyway, so yeah.
Just do the warm-up. Just commit to doing the warm-up and see how you feel.
And then see how you go.
I'll take it back a little, like strip it back a bit further and just leave it as just start. So whether that is, so kind of tying it into the moving your body bit. So if you really have that moment of reflection of like, I really don't want to go to that structure, whether it's your a team training thing or it's down at the box or anything like that, just move. So even if I'm sitting here right now, like a couple of bum squeezes, or just move.
Yeah.
Just start. Do a couple of down dogs on the carpet or something. Do you know what I mean? Just move it a little bit, and then you might see, actually, I'd quite like to move a little bit more, go for a wee stroll around the block, and then take it from there. That might just be enough to sort of reignite the flame of motivation.
Yeah, I think I like that as well. It's like letting your body lead the way.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean lifting the same heavy stuff or training at the same intensity as you were last week, but it's doing what your body needs to do, and you're only going to know that if you start to gently move.
I'm moving it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the message.
I think if you want to get, because there's obviously different people that respond in different ways, and I think the three of us would all agree that we are quite reflective, and we, some people may, and I'll call it myself, I overthink, and it is helpful at times, but there will be people that are listening to this that are not in that headspace. That's not what they do, and they're just much more about cracking on. And I think those tips there are really useful because it's very practical in getting going. But for people who do want to delve a little deeper, I think having a little check-in as to what your motivation is, because I was speaking to you ladies beforehand about like my hockey and how I felt about my hockey and the level that I played at, 10 plus years ago. I had a very different motivation then, and I almost assumed that motivation that's always how I was going to feel about it, and I would always want to play in X type of environment with Y type of people. But then as I came back to it after a break, I realised that, oh, wait a minute, that's not why I play anymore. This is different. So it allowed me to make different choices and get the most out of the experience and enjoy it. And I would sort of invite other people to do that. It might be that the work's changed, it might be family circumstances changed, it might be that they've just done that class 100 times and they're a bit bored of it now. I think if you check in if why you're doing what you're doing, that will guide you. Is it fun? Is it competition?
Yeah, and that helps with a bit of self-blame with it as well, actually. Like, what can you change? What can be changed to inject some fun back into it, or the frequency, or the kind of class? Yeah, definitely. And
I think some people really like having a class where they can just come and they have to maybe, like the weightlifting classes that we've got, that's really technical and you're thinking a lot of things. I sometimes like that because it means I'm not thinking about other stuff. Because I have to really focus on what I'm doing and being aware. So that might not be a long ongoing thing, but there's might be some days where, a weightlifting class would be really good for me right now because I could just focus solely on that. So I think it's looking at your overall motivation and how your life has maybe changed, but also taking into account day to day, week to week, there could be gentle shifts that would mean you want to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah. There's so I just wanted to correct myself about the inquiry that I talked about earlier, and the author is Byron Katie. It's a wonderful thing to do. It's called The Work. So check it out. And if you're having many voices going, morning. Just go and do the work. It's just a lovely little thing to do. So it's an exercise in trying to get close to that wise self that knows why.
That sounds like what you did when you found that motivation in your big toe earlier on today.
Way all the way up, but it got there.
You found it. That's great to chat to you both today. Thank you. Let us know with a comment that you've listened, and any thoughts that you have, where your mojo is right now. We'd love to hear, and what reflections you might have after listening to our chat today. And we'll be back again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.